Hello! I get asked every once in a while, Matt, how do you handle armpits? That is a personal question, but I'm going to show you how I handle it with a rig. I'm going to show you 5 different ways, and I'm going to start with the way that I see most people handle it, and I consider that not the best way, and then we'll go through a few others. I'll show you my favorite in the middle. Okay, so here we go. Let's start the way that most people do. A lot of the time what people will do is they will use the multi-port in. So let me just show you, if I were to move this off the body, there's a full line on the line art layer of the drawing view. So there's like the overlay. We have some creases. It helps with the elbow area, but the line art is here. And so what people will often do is they will put a cutter under the line art, and then they will pull in the auto patch of the torso. I'll go full screen so you can see what I'm doing here. So the torso, or the auto patch of the torso sometimes, but you pull that in. What this is, in case you're curious what this is called a waypoint, and you can always click on a cable and go to the very middle, and there's usually a little invisible circle there. You can set a shortcut. I use Control W. So once you have it highlighted and then you click, you can put that there, and then you can press Shift to drag an extra branch from that waypoint. So both of these arms are getting cut. The line art of the upper arm is getting cut by the torso, which is kind of nice most of the time. Let me show you where you run into a problem. Let's say that I want to keyframe both of the arms at the same time, or I want to copy both of these arms from right here further down the timeline. Normally, because this is a parent peg above both of them, I should be able to just copy and paste this. Let me just show you. Let's just say that he was doing some kind of pose. Okay, so I'm going to copy from the arms master peg, and then I'm going to come down here and paste it. Nothing happened. Why? Because I love talking to myself like this. I am going to expand this, and look, the only thing underneath it in the timeline is a static transformation. Where are the arms? If I go center on selection, look, the arms are actually above the arms master peg. It probably has something to do with the cutters. It's getting moved over to where the torso is. And so this is why I really, really do not like to use multi-port in when trimming the lines away of groups, especially these are cloned groups. So I'll show you what I'd like to do instead of that. So here I have updated it and changed it. This is a different version of the rig. Notice it still has the same behavior. I'm clicking on a little handle I made so I can move that away. But what I have done is, instead of having the multi-port in setup, I have taken the overlay layer, the line that would normally show up. Here, I'm just going to show you what this looks like in the drawing view so you know what I'm talking about. Okay, so here in the drawing view, this is the overlay. It has the completed line, and then it also has the elbow crease, and then the line art is missing the top part of the line. All right, so now what I'm saying is I want you to bring that overlay stuff out, and then it's going to get cut away. So the overlay is the thing that has the completed line. And then that overlay coming out here is going to be the thing that gets cut by the body. So now, instead of doing a multi-port in setup, I'm doing a multi-port out setup, because now I can come in here and I will see that the arms are down below the master peg of the arms, which is where I would expect it, where the animators would expect it to be. That's why we do everything that we do in rigging, is we're trying to make it so it's easy for the animators to use. We don't want anything confusing or strange like that multi-port in setup. Occasionally, the multi-port in doesn't give me that problem if I like go into the right side or the left side, but I don't know. It's not super consistent in my experience, so I just like to avoid it. When I'm doing these multi-port out situations, I like to label what each of them are doing. So I'll say port 1 is the upper arm lines, port 2 is the arm, just to kind of help me understand what's going on here so I don't have to like go digging in and trying to figure it out. All right, let's go to the next example. So here's my mat rig, and the lines on this are a little thicker. So I like to use this technique when I'm using thicker lines and I care about line tapers. And as you can see, the arms groups are self-contained. They don't have like two different ports coming out the bottom. That's nice. I like it when it's like that. And I will show you how this is working. So what I have is I have these little trimmers where I can show them or not show them. I think it's going to be easiest to show you how this works if I add a display, Control Y, hold Alt, change to that display, and then show you how it's working. So what I have done is I'll turn off the deformers for a minute so you can see what's going on here. I've made two of these little trimmers that can cut away the lines. And there's one on each side. Sometimes I want the arm to line up with one side of the body, sometimes the other. So sometimes I only want one at a time. Sometimes I want both. And I will just show you how these are made. What I have done is in the drawing view, I have made a shape like this. So I just started with a perfect ellipse. I'll just use the eyeball and show you all of these right now. Alt equals, and I would draw a circle and make it so it's just like a size 1 line or something like that. Okay, and then in the camera view, I would be looking at where the different parts of the arm are. I'm holding Control with the contour editor and adding some extra points. And then I bring this in, and then I go ahead and I add deformers to that shape. And then what I do is I put the outline, I put the outline up here on the overlay layer. I also fill it, so I paint bucket into there with an invisible swatch. And in Harmony 22, there's kind of a glitch. You have to make the invisible swatch at least an alpha of 1 in order to make it selectable. And then I copy that color art stuff down here to the underlay. And I turn it full opacity, and I use Cutter, a bright green swatch. You could use any color that you want as long as it doesn't have any opacity to it, or like as long as it's not semi-transparent. Okay, and then I went here and I made deformers like this. You can see that I tried to use as few deformer points as possible. So one at the top, one here in the middle, two on the little tips. And then I made sure, here I'll just show you how I made perfect deformers. What I like to do is once I've made the deformers as close as I can get them to the design, then what I do is I come in here and I follow the handlebars of the deformers. I'm holding Alt to take that apart, to spread the handlebars out both ways as I drag. And so now you'll see that it's lining up pretty perfectly with the deformer, and then I add some extra control points, some contour points, and I hold Control while I click, 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 click to add a bunch of points, because then it will work more smoothly. It won't look jagged like this. So I'm just going to press undo a bunch of times. Okay, and then I like to turn it a color. I'll go to the overlay layer and I choose just a color that's like semi-transparent. So there I go. I've got that. I'll go ahead and enable the deformers now. And so then I just deform it so that it gives me a nice taper where I want it to be. And I really like this because I can contain it within the group. I don't have to put a multi-port out or anything. And I can control what I want to happen. Like I can even do this kind of thing. I do find, I need to tell you how these different layers are filtered out. So I have an overlay art filter. I've brought that in from the node view and I've abbreviated it. And then I also have an underlay filter. So it's just bringing those two of the four, because we've got overlay, line art, color art, underlay on every single drawing layer. So I filter out both of those. And then what I'm doing is I'm taking the overlay stuff and I'm plugging it all into this handles area. And then I've got this visibility node that says display in OpenGL, but do not render out. And so what that does is it makes it so I can see this green line, this overlay line, while I'm working. But then I am going to go to higher resolution just so you can see this a little bit better. But then when I go to render out, you won't see them. I also have this little handle that goes to the top of the arm really fast so that I can quickly pose out the rig really quick when I'm doing the posing stage. Okay, and then when I do have two of these taper trimmer things, I like to add a master peg above both of them so I can quickly keyframe them or quickly press delete so that they're not there. That kind of stuff, or F5 to extend the exposure for them for the whole timeline. And then I go through the whole turnaround and I keyframe where I want those to be tapering. So now I'll just go back to my normal display. And this is what it ends up looking like. I have also added these to the torso area. So like right here, I've got the torso, I've got the lines and the color coming out. And oh, I forgot to tell you about this matte composite thing. Let me tell you what that does. So a matte composite, I'm going to add a display, Control Y, I'm going to switch to that display. Okay, so right now, when I'm looking through the taper trimmer, it's showing me the overlay, line art, color art, underlay. But then if I'm going through the filter, it's only showing me the overlay, only showing me the underlay. Okay, so that underlay stuff, I want to bundle it together from both of them. And then I want you to see what happens. When I go to render view, it just shows up white. So what a matte composite does is it just takes black and white information. It just says, are there pixels there or are there no pixels there? If there's no pixels there, it's going to be black. If there are pixels there, it's going to be white. If you have something semi-transparent, it would be like gray. So this is just a nice way of plugging in a bunch of stuff and then cutting something. With an Apple M1 chip, it used to have issues that if you use like a regular composite here, when you're bundling stuff together and then cutting something, it would make it so that the torso piece would just disappear. If you were going to bundle things together, you need to use a matte composite. And there's other cool things that you can do with a matte composite. There's like 4 different modes that you can do. So I like to use matte composites when I'm just cutting stuff away. All right. So then I have gone ahead and added some trimmers to the torso, and I went ahead and added another trimmer up here to the collar. So I really like that way of doing it. Okay, let's show you a few more or 2 more ways. All right, here's my preacher guy. And what I've done is I have just made a piece that I can put over the arm. So I've got this shoulder piece. It's separate and it covers the arm. And then I've got this piece that also covers the arm. And when I'm doing this, you have to be really careful that you're doing it right. I don't like to add Z depth unless I absolutely have to. So like when this comes over here, I still want it to be behind the collar and the tie. A mistake a lot of people make, I would call it a mistake, is let's say that you started off this arm behind the body. The only way to get it to come in front is to press Alt down to add some Z depth, but then it's too far in front and it's behind the collar. So you'd have to make like some cutters that make the collar cut through this. Anyways, my preference is just do all that you can to make the layers the cable order so that you do not have to add Z depth. Like right now, I can layer that behind here because I have ordered them in that way. Okay, so with the shoulder stuff, I do prefer to keep the shoulders outside of the arm group because usually when I am rotating the arm, I want it to rotate from here. I usually do not want it to rotate from up there. I'll just simulate it for you. That always looks kind of weird to me when I'm animating, so that's just a personal preference. And then I have both of the shoulders pegged together so that I can keyframe both of those at once. I can keyframe both of the arms at once, and then when I go up, it's the whole torso. And, you know, looking back at it, maybe I should have had another peg. Control P, where I call it like shoulders, arms. -MP for master peg, and then that way I can keyframe both of those together. I think that that would probably make sense. Okay, cool. So that's pretty straightforward, right? You're just making some extra pieces, and then the lines down below, they aren't getting cut away by the torso at all. They're just layered in a way that you can put things on top of them. Okay, time for the last method. All right, this one has to do with multiple swaps of the upper arm. So this one is not too bad to use, and I will show you how. So instead of having a separate like shoulder piece that's covering this, this is what I have done. So I'm going to turn off enabling the deformer so you can see what I have. Okay, so I made an arm piece, the upper arm piece, and it only has one set of deformers. There's not a transformation switch. There's no multiple deformation chains going on here. All of these swaps are the exact same shape so that they can all share the same deformers, and I have just tapered the line on each of them so that I can swap it whenever I need to. So let me show you how this can be used. Okay, so here I'm in the front view, and I want the arm to look like that. So when I create the deformers, here I'm going to show you again what it looks like without that. I make it so that the deformer point is right past the end of the corner that I'm concerned with. Do you see that? That deformer point's right there. These deformer points are here. Notice how the tapers always favor the inside of the shape. I'm just going to show you now how I could make this, how I went through the process of this. All right, so I am going to duplicate this full lines setup. But before I do, I will show you on the drawing layers what I have. Shift-X, Shift-M. Okay, so here on the color art, I've got this. Line art, I've got the full lines. Overlay, I just have the stuff here in the elbow area. If you watch my other videos, you'll see why. It's so that we can get, I'm going to press Alt up, we get this nice taper automatically because the auto patch of the forearm is cutting the line art, which is the full lines of the upper arm. And then I usually try to place that deformer point in a good place. I'll show you this is actually not the best place because when you start doing this, it gets really weird. And so that's why I usually try to make sure that the taper on the overlay is up higher. And then I use the pencil editor tool and I pull that down and I favor the interior line. You can go watch my videos about this if you have questions about it. Okay, I'm going to press undo a bunch of times, and then I'm going to show you how to make this. Okay, so first thing I want to show you is when I'm animating with this. Sometimes I'm going to want to go like this. And I want that to be able to line up perfectly with the shoulder. And so you have to make the arm in a special way so that you can get the line and the color to line up in a good way. This is too extreme and looking kind of weird, but I'll show you with full lines how to duplicate it and create what you need. I'm going to show my deformers, and yes, I'm using 6 deformer points on the arm instead of 4. Yes, the fewer that you have, the easier it's going to be to pose it out, but I do find that 6 is still pretty reasonable, and it helps with this technique when you want to have like 2 tapers that end at the top. So now I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm going to duplicate. I'll go Alt-Shift-D, or there's the duplicate button. Okay, and then I'm going to use the cutter tool, Alt-T, cutter, and then I'm going to come here and I am going to cut away. I'm on the overlay layer and I will delete that. Something is, oh, sorry, I need to go to the line art layer. All right, I'm going to trim that away a little bit more. Now I want you to see what's going to happen because I didn't do it the right way. I'm going to add a taper like this and like this. Now watch what happens when I try to line this up with the shoulder. I get this. I don't like that. I would want it to line up perfectly with that line. So let me show you how to achieve being able to do that. So instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the upper arm to the line art layer, and then I am going to cut this away, but I'm not going to delete. Control X. Okay, that's good. I'm going to go down to the color art, Control V. I'm going to go to the drawing view so you can see what happened. So I took away this chunk, and when I was using the cutter tool, I made sure that the tip style is round. Okay. Now I'm going to come down here. I am going to convert this pencil line to brush strokes. Pencil to brush. And then I'm going to flatten this. So Control-Shift-F is the shortcut, or there's a flatten button over here. Okay. Then I can delete that, and it's missing the perfect amount of the line, so that now I can add the taper to the line. Holding Control to add that point there. And now, when I rotate it, I can line it up perfectly because it's missing the color art there. Now, this can get a little complicated if you needed to do a zoomed out version of the rig and you wanted to make all the lines bigger, or if you needed to do a super close-up and you needed to make the lines thinner, then you'd have to fiddle with it a little bit. But anyways, I do like this method because it's pretty fast. You just swap on whatever you need. So I'll just do a quick little demo of how this could work. All right, so the arm is like this, and maybe I don't want that inner line, and I'll press BBB Alt down to put this in front of the body, and then I could use the number 3 here, and that's looking pretty reasonable, and I would be able to just adjust these shoulder and torso parts to to get what I need. Okay. Then what if I'm posing out the back view of the character? I'm just going to push undo a bunch of times. I'm going to the back view of the character. So when I pose that out, let me just move the tie over. When I'm posing out the back view, this arm is going to be coming over here, and it's going to need to line up perfectly with the other shoulder. And so this is the case when I would want to use this. So it's posed out the other way. I can get the crease, like the back crease, and then I can bring this up and line up with the shoulder. But that does depend on the shoulder being the same line width there. So I would need to adjust that. But the cool thing is now it can tween nicely. You just choose the swap that you want. Like here on the profile view, maybe because it's so interior, I would choose this. And then once it gets out here, I can choose the other things. All right, there you go. That's how I handle the armpits.
See you soon!